Hi, friends. It's Katie Steinberg here on behalf of Missing Peace. This is our first time live streaming since we've been social distancing. So welcome. Glad to have you here and enjoy a little time together as we improv. So let's start with our welcome. Welcome to Missing Peace. We are normally a nomadic community, seeking God through physical activities, cerebral engagements, spiritual practices, and serving opportunities. Though being together but separate, being at one and all over, offers another beautiful metaphor of how we are in community. I invite you to comment with a quick hello if you're watching and where you're watching from. Let us know we're all together, even when we're apart. And also, I invite you to craft a sacred space wherever you happen to be, wherever you are. You can light a candle. I've got some essential oils here. Light some incense. I invite you to turn off other electronics and distractions. If you have family you can gather around or people that you're holed up with, you can invite them also to this open-hearted time and settle in for a few moments of peace. Let's take a moment to just kind of catch our breath. Anxious times have the tendency to make us breathe quickly, taking these little shallow sips of air. And we can survive on shallow sips of air, but we deepen our capacity when we breathe more deeply. So let's just take a couple of deep breaths together. In most of our lives, there's just these shallow breaths skimming the surface of our capacity. When we breathe deeply, we remember that so much more is possible. Similarly, we recognize that much of our life is just skimming the surface of our spiritual capacity in a beautiful sunset or a perfect butterfly. But when we gather for Missing Peace, we breathe deeply and open ourselves to this time being different. Set apart, holy time, where we can deepen our spiritual experience. If you have some essential oil, you can go ahead and put some of that on if you like, inviting some other sensory experiences into this time together. And if you have a candle, I invite you to light it if you haven't already. And as you light it, I invite you to think about this unique time that we're in. We are separate, but in lighting candles and inviting in our senses, we're also together in a unique way. Also, lighting candles is recognized around the world as a way to hold vigil, regardless of religious background. So as you light your candle and invite some extra light into your space, I invite you to allow some hopes, some prayers to drift to your mind or to your lips. You can share them below in the comments, and this community can hold them together. Or you can share them with whoever is with you. We honor that these kinds of hopes and prayers are not bound by time, so whether you do this together in this moment or whether you're watching later and you do it then, they're still bound together. Let this light remind us of the light inside us all, the light of the world, a light that will never be overcome by darkness. May our prayers be heard and each of our hearts be activated. Amen. Every week at Missing Peace, we read a community statement, and we'll share that together now. We are here as a community of families and friends gathered in response to an urging from beyond ourselves. We acknowledge that God, a name for the source of all good, love, and peace attested to in the scriptures, is at work in this beautiful and broken world, and we are committed to joining in that work. We have found that no matter how our lives look from the outside, whether we are Christian or agnostic, whether we are successful or struggling, whether we are confident or doubtful or anywhere in between, we all need more peace. For that reason, we seek. We seek to know who we are in light of a God who loves us in this broken and fearful world. We seek to understand the message of Jesus, meant not for Christianity, but for all humanity. We seek the way, truth, and life, partnered with the Spirit, for the good of ourselves, our families, our community, and our world. If you could hear some of the rustling in the background there, probably like many of you, this experience is taking place with a house full of other humans, and that just might happen sometimes. So as I thought about the idea of improv, which is our emphasis this week, there was a few things that came up for me. One is just that it's funny in a way because we put this improv idea on our calendars in early January, and we find ourselves in a time where improvisation is part of our regular daily life now, whether you're a leader of some kind of spiritual community or a church, or just in your daily life. We're all improvising new ways to do life in this new environment where a pandemic rages just outside our doors. This idea of improvisation is an invitation into exploring the divine in our humanity. And again, in our current environment, we all have so much to do in that improvisational work. Improvising as we make our homes into schools and workplaces and playgrounds. Improvising as we move coffee dates to FaceTime visits. Improvising as we make happy hours into Zoom meetings, dinner dates into Google Hangouts. It's all improv now. I was introduced to the spirituality of improv by Marianne McKibben Dana, whose book, God, Improv, and the Art of Living, deeply influenced my ideas here, as well as providing the practices that will be in the comments just below. In her intro, she asks us to think about a time in your life when everything went according to plan, quickly followed by, I'll wait till you stop laughing. While this season we are in may feel particularly pregnant with the necessity to improvise, you've been doing it your whole life. Every time you've had to pivot, every time a plan went wrong, every time you came up with a new solution, you are a natural improviser. Take heart in that. And this is hard. This is serious. This, right now, is a unique moment in history of which no one alive has ever seen its like. As we watch death tolls climb, as we watch small business struggle and close, as we see the most vulnerable suffer, our hearts break. We cry big wet prayers down our faces. We feel helpless and anxious and afraid. And what else should we feel in a global pandemic? I won't sit and tell you that it's all going to be okay. It's not. It's going to be hard and long and challenging. I won't tell you that if you pray big enough or believe enough, then you or someone you love won't get sick, because some will. I won't tell you that you should get over it or look for a silver lining or be grateful for what you do have. I won't tell you that because I don't have to. If you need to grieve, by all means, grieve. This is an appropriate response to a crisis. And at the same time, even the most anxious folks I talk to can see some hope. Maybe it's just built into our DNA or divine image or identity as children of God, but it's also built into our world. Every time the seemingly dead winter turns into a spring bursting with life. It's built into the Christian story as torture and death is turned into resurrection. It's built into your own story when you've gone through your darkest night and come out a stronger version of yourself. There's an early 20th century prayer, most notably connected to 12-step programs helping people recover from addiction. It says, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Interestingly, this has also been called the improviser's prayer, because improv isn't about changing what is already there. It's about taking that and running with it. It's about finding the goodness of a little nugget and leaning into it. It's about yes and that creates space for what already is and invites it in a new direction. I'm now stuck at home with my kids all day long. Yes, and we are making memories we will never forget and finding new ways to be family together. We cannot go out with our friends. Yes, and we are finding new ways to relate and connect even more with the people that distance once seemed such a barrier. I cannot hug my grandparents. Yes, and we are developing new rituals that let our words hug by telling them the things we love about them most. Let us not diminish the seriousness of our current set of circumstances. It is no small matter that our healthcare system is getting overwhelmed, that people are dying, that every country in the world is experiencing this pandemic. Yes, and we can improvise. We can find new ways to connect, relate, support, and help. We can find hope in the midst of the darkness. We insist on seeing the gifts of even the hardest times. And in this way, we hold the sacred space of the heart that knows the depth of love in spite of and in the midst of the pain. Through this invitation to embrace improvisation, we will both work our improv muscles and create a little space for community and joy. Two things needed deeply in challenging times. We'll find a little laughter together and a little connection. We'll make a little bright spot together and lighten our hearts. And you're invited. If you want to continue the conversation and participate in some improv together, there will be a Zoom link in the comments just below for those watching live. Or you can do the exercises that will be listed in the comments with your people at home. Again, a big thanks to Marianne McKibben-Dana for her writing and the exercises below from her book, God, Improv, and the Art of Living. There should be a link in the comments to that too. We hope you're staying well and sane and that you'll join us for future virtual events on our Facebook page. We're going to do a lot of experimenting and some of it's sure to be messy, but it's also sure to be fun and beautiful. And we hope you're a part of it. So that's all for now, friends. Grace and peace, and I hope to see you in the Zoom room. Care, friends. Stay safe.